Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in Inside Arkansas Live here on this beautiful day here in the great state of Arkansas. I'm your host, John Neighbors, alongside Curtis Wilkerson and Andrew Ellis, and appreciate each and every one of you for making us a part of your afternoon this afternoon. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday, as we're going to have plenty to talk about today. We're going to talk actually a lot of football and Sam Pittman as he spoke to various media members, but also we'll be doing a press conference at 1 o'clock today, to which Andrew is going to hop off, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit afterwards. So we'll get you the latest on that. We'll do What to Watch, presented by Bryant Technologies, What's More Likely by BetSaracen, a little Alumni Hall question of the day, and get to your chats, as well as your phone calls at 478-344-6623. But fellas, it's a Thursday. How we feeling? It's kind of weird doing a Thursday without a game from the previous night, but feels like it's been forever since the Razorback basketball team has played.
It does. Yeah, I know the team needs the extra day of rest, but I don't. Like, I'm ready for them to get back out there, man. This, yesterday we were talking about it. Tomorrow we'll be talking about it. Today, this is my hump day of the week. I'm not crazy about it. I want to get past this one.
Yeah, it is a little bit boring whenever you got that extra gap between the midweek game and the Saturday game. Don't even know what to do with my hands at this point, but luckily we had some baseball to tide us over, and thankfully Sam Pittman did a little car wash, a little media car wash, where he said a lot of things that we can talk about. So we're filling the time, but yeah, it's a long week whenever we're talking football in March.
Yeah, it's like they got so much going on, which timing wise, it's kind of nice because again with spring football coming up, we'll talk more about that. But either way, I was kind of so out of sight, out of mind with football so much that I had people, I don't know if you guys get this too, but I have people that'll sometimes just randomly out of the blue, either DM or tweet at me, be like, hey, just, it's just basketball season and all, but just what do you think about Pittman's portal class, or what do you think they need in that dress in the spring? And I have to sit there and I look at the tweet or whatever and just not get mad or anything, but I'm just like, I don't even care. It's almost like, I'm so out of that. Like I'm so into what's going on with basketball and then, of course, with baseball. But then things start to creep in a little bit, like with Pittman doing so much, as you said, the car wash today. It opens a lot of it up. But guys, I know we'll talk some spring football when spring football goes on. But what we're going to discuss, or at least what Pittman has discussed a lot, has almost nothing to do with the team or what his players look like or anything. It's about the program. It's about NIL. It's about transfer portal, and it's about general manager. And, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I don't know if it's one way or the other, but it certainly seems like the vast majority of questions and curiosities come from what that aspect is of a college football program, at least here at Arkansas, and not, what's the defensive tackle position looking like? It just seems like that's not even a thing right now that people are interested in.
Yeah, it's that seems to be the case, man. I think you nailed it. My hope is that after the car wash today, I like that. I'm definitely going to use that too. He's had like 7 different radio interviews or podcasts or TV appearances or whatever, and this is really all he's talked about is the NIL and the revenue sharing, figuring out the GM thing. So I hope that everybody else in the media heard all those things in this press conference at 1 o'clock. They at least mix in some questions about the team. Because I wouldn't mind hearing his thoughts on all these new guys that they brought in, because we haven't really we haven't heard from him since the bowl game, I don't guess. So I hope that that's mixed in there and not just a regurgitation of what we've already heard. But it's a big deal, man, and it's not just in Arkansas; it's throughout the course of the entire country. And we're kind of waiting for the Razorbacks to make some of these moves, like a GM, while you're seeing all these big time hires elsewhere. And I get it. I understand why people are asking the questions, why they're anxious about it. And we'll just kind of see what happens. I'm really trying to rid myself of the just nonstop skepticism. And I don't want to say negativity, but just kind of like believe it when I'll see it. Kind of, I want to have more of an open mind with this football program than I did at the end of last year. I'm going to make a concerted effort to do that, but it's challenging. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, I feel that, Curtis, because I there was a point. I mean, look, by the way, we did a lot of football off-season transfer portal talk and talking about the whole team, and I enjoyed it. Like, I really do enjoy talking about this football program, and I want them to be better. Of course, it's a lot easier to do. But I myself got a little frustrated where I was like, man, it kind of is annoying having to kind of, I felt like we were being the voice of reason, but like having to point out that, hey, this thing is not going particularly well during the off-season portal haul. But I think, going back to your point about how, Sam is talking about big picture program stuff like NIL and revenue sharing and all this, rather than talking about the team. And I actually think that is probably a smart approach. Of course, maybe today I'd like to hear about the team, but when you have this fan base that's kind of in a weird disgruntled mode, is it really going to move the needle with the fan base if you're like, well, guys, I saw them in the weight room. Our linebackers look fast. I tell you what, our O-line, this is the most together they've ever been. That kind of stuff probably wouldn't win over the fan base. But if you're able to convince us and convince the fan base that you really have a solid grip on how this thing works and how this roster construction is going to play out and how these changes in college football are going to affect you positively, that's probably the best way to go from a PR standpoint. My only problem, coming back to the skepticism, is that every time Sam Pittman gets in front of a microphone, I feel less confident that he has a master plan and that this university is on the forefront of all this and they're really in a position to strike and increase their standing among the rest of the SEC. Do I think that he's going to do everything in his power to make this football team better? Absolutely. Like, I've never questioned that about Sam Pittman. I just wonder if in this new era of college football and where things are going, if Arkansas is really ready to take a massive step forward. I remain very skeptical on that front.
Well, and I think the skepticism is warranted, because it's one thing if you just say things and you're not very good at talking and not very good at addressing it or being able to communicate a message clearly, but the actions speak for themselves because it ends up being okay. It's maybe you just don't put it into words very well. Or it's the opposite, where you say all the right things and you put it all together and you have the message that's strong and everyone's like, man, that sounds really good. I'm all for that. And then the actual action does not come through. But when it's both, and when it's showing that the message isn't always clear, and the ever-changing things, and I'm not even talking about just like college football in general, because that is ever-changing, but the injuries. Well, this guy's injured, and then as time goes on, it's like, oh, he's not even going to play again. Or the NIL, yeah, we have money, but then you really don't. And the actions show that you're not really getting anybody out of the portal. In fact, you're losing players out of the portal. It's just also convoluted, where it's really hard for anybody to believe that what you say is true, especially when what you're doing isn't really successful and isn't really showcasing that part of it. So it's a frustrating thing, and we'll hear a little bit from Sam Pittman and some of the comments that he made. But I'm curious. I want to get your thoughts, because we were talking about in our text group this morning with revenue sharing specifically, and getting into the details of it. For those that may not know, because it is a very convoluted thing. But for those that may not know, like what are y'all's thoughts on revenue sharing and the type of impact that it'll have on a school like Arkansas, not just in college football in general, but on a school like Arkansas? Because Sam Pittman believes it could be a game changer and can really elevate their program to a new level.
Well, I think he's also under the impression that it levels the playing field for everyone. And I think the jury's still out on how much that's really going to be the case, right? Because everybody's going to kind of be on the hook for this, revenue sharing cap. What is it, 20.5 million or something like that? But you have to come up with and disperse. So, okay, well, if everyone's doing that, then it should be an even playing field. I get it from that standpoint of it. My question is, what about the actual NIL, the extra stuff, and what is that going to look like? And I feel like it's still TBD, on one hand, you see programs, we were talking about this right before we started, like LSU basketball, for example, like they're keeping Matt McMahon for another year and investing into his NIL. They're giving him more money to go buy players. Why would a school do that if everybody was going to be on the same playing field? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't add up to me. It doesn't make sense. So I know that the power conferences have been trying to put together that coalition or whatever that would enforce the cap on revenue sharing, and they'd really crack down on the collectives that are booster funded, and they're going to try to determine what the market value is for a particular player. And if this NIL deal is fair for this player, I just don't know how they're going to be able to get all that to work. If all those things happen, then maybe there's some truth to that. But until then, I just feel like it's almost like everybody is given a baseline, and then based on the amount of money or the boosters, everything else that you have, that's going to determine who's best. I mean, teams are still going out there and recruiting better. They have more money. They're buying better players. So I think there's just some confusion still out there amongst everyone, including, I think, coaches and, administrators from various universities, that they just don't know exactly what this is going to look like and how it's going to work. And until then, I think we're all just kind of sitting here going, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds good in theory. The notion that, hey, we're gonna be sharing our revenue, and teams are gonna be basically mandated to do that with this new thing. And okay, that'll account for how you're gonna pay players directly. And it sounds good, the idea that okay, teams around the SEC will say, all right, yeah, well, cool, we'll do that, and we will no longer funnel a bunch of money from boosters and all these collectives to try and get the big fish like Ole Miss and Alabama and all these teams do. It sounds good, but I don't know if that's exactly the reality we live in. I'm sure we will talk about Ross Dellinger's story, which, I'm glad you guys brought that to my attention because an hour ago I had not seen that. But that's big time because that could actually be a step forward to what you guys said of a level playing field. But really big picture, what concerns me though is that Arkansas seems to be hoping and praying and pushing the idea of a quote unquote level playing field. And perhaps that will eventually be a reality. It definitely isn't in the world that we live in right now. It certainly isn't a level playing field. It wasn't this past offseason because we heard that same terminology in Sam Pittman's first press conference of the offseason. He said, we think this revenue sharing is going to create a more level playing field in the portal. So we think we're going to go out there and build a good portal class. That clearly did not happen. Because it was not a level playing field. Will it be? Certainly one day? Maybe. I don't know. And I think there's definitely going to be room for college football. And really, it's not going to come from the NCAA. It's going to come from these power conferences. Could maybe put in some legislation to somewhat make it a level playing field where teams have to cap their spending and all that. But we just aren't in that world right now. And maybe we will one day, and that'll be great. But we are just not in there one day. And so I think Arkansas right now is kind of putting all their eggs in the one day this will be a level playing field basket, while other teams are doing everything they can to stay ahead. And it's kind of a common theme that we've voiced our frustration with this Arkansas athletic department is they're very reactionary, and they are kind of
We froze him again. Using a good point. Man.
Well, does it seem to you, John, like Arkansas is also maybe having some struggles to just come up with that revenue sharing money, like that bottom line dollar themselves, just to get to that point? I mean, it seems like they're really having to cut corners and do a lot of different things. And I know everybody has to change up the way this, their operating costs work, and they, there's some cutbacks and everything. And maybe it's just because we follow the Razorback program so closely, but it seems like that's all we hear about was all these things that they have to do just so they can get there. And that concerns me too, about them being able to, theoretically a level playing field because you can't go over that cap in terms of your spending from that revenue sharing standpoint, but you also have to be able to get there. So I think that's something else that we have to consider too.
Well, and it's like the mentality of that too is the most off-putting thing that you can have. It's not about like, I live in a reality where I know that the Razorback football program is not on the same level of an LSU or a Georgia. Like I think every Razorback fan, at least logical ones, understand the limitations that you have. But what I don't accept and what I don't like is the mentality of almost hoping, praying, and begging that this thing passes because you're not to the level that you need to be at, and you're hoping everyone else gets brought down to yours. It's a bad mentality, especially when there's other schools that you could say are similar to you that are doing just fine in it. And a place like Ole Miss, a place like Missouri, whatever, that's what's bothersome, is where it's not coming across as we haven't done a good enough job of doing this. We haven't done a good enough job of putting together plans and hitting on these portal guys and all of these things. What it is just like, well, we're just hoping that that people can come and help us and this law can help us out because it's unfair. That is an awful mentality. And the lack of understanding in that, and considering all the things that we've seen collectively from the university and the athletic department and things that I've heard and I've discussed with people, this is a major, major, major money issue, not in the way of Arkansas trying to get as much money as possible, or more so in a way of Arkansas trying to save their rear ends and trying to get as much money as they can just to save face, just to even break even. That's what this all comes across as, is it's not money to keep spending and to keep growing. It's money to save our skins because we've done such a poor job in so many things. And I just hate that mentality, and I hate the way it's coming across. It's the messaging. I hate the way it's coming across because it comes across as, golly gee whiz, the only way we can even have a chance is if everybody else has to, get stuff taken away from them. So therefore we can finally be there. because I don't think that should ever have been the case. And that should ever be the mentality at a place like Arkansas, is to just hope and pray that everybody lowers their standards. So that way your standard is a little bit higher.
That's why I'm having such a hard time, I think, understanding and getting a complete grasp of this is for what you just said. It seems to me like in Arkansas's mind, the way to level the playing field, like you said, is for everyone else to spend less, right? Or have less of a cap or whatever. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. But then I'm just seeing all these other programs across the country, and it's basketball season right now. And I know football is king, but so many of these places are not firing coaches, and they're saying, well, instead of paying a hefty buyout or whatever, we're just going to put that money into our NIL fund. That way we can level the playing field by having more money and going out there and buying a better roster. So which is it? You know what I mean? Like which one is it that's really going to get you where you want to be when the messaging from one place to another is so drastically different? That's what concerns me about it, is where this is headed.
One, yeah, like you said, I think these other teams are thinking, man, we got to get as much shady stuff in. We got to do as much as we can now before they put all these sanctions on us. We got to try and nobody else is aiming for a level playing field. That's not what Ole Miss is aiming for. That's not what Tennessee, that's not what Texas. They're looking to be above the playing field. And LSU, that's what they do. They try and be above the playing field, and they're kind of seeing this all this money regulating and the cap and all that as an opportunity for them to them to come down to everyone else. Arkansas is kind of hoping for it so they can get back to everyone. But again, going back to the revenue sharing, because that's what we said from the beginning, is why is this going to be a big deal for Arkansas when it's the same rules that everyone else is playing with? You still have to find a way to get ahead in whatever the circumstances are, regardless of how much you're able to spend or whatever you're allowed to do. Your competition is still the same. You still have to play the same teams and the same programs. How are you going to beat those teams and programs? And so, again, it comes back to the mentality and the messaging. We'll see if Arkansas finds a way to truly get ahead. I just am very, again, skeptical.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of everything when it comes to spending that the University of Arkansas and the athletic department is doing or has done, because we've talked so much about it, but the question I've always posed is, where is the money going? And it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere. There's no spending going on things that we see. We don't see contract extensions. We don't see buyouts because of fired coaches. We don't see NIL coming through in the clutch. We don't see new facilities. We don't see any of these things. The only thing we see right now, guys, and what fans see, the same thing, is our programs aren't doing so hot. We're losing players right and left that are high quality to other SEC schools. And we're just here to accept it. That's all people see. And you can think it's too simplistic or whatever, but my thing, and there's so many different ways of what Razorback athletics have done and what concerns me the most. I refuse to accept that Arkansas is just the smartest guy in the room, that they're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Like, I just refuse to believe that. Even if I had some reasons to believe it, it would still be hard for me. But the idea that, again, maybe I'm wrong, but find me another coach in college football, major college football, that has talked about revenue sharing as some sort of saving grace to the program and being able to help you out. I can't think. I haven't heard of one. Maybe there is one, but I haven't heard much talk of it. Or find me another coach or AD or whoever that is asking out of the fan base and asking for people to help with certain things, but yet is not showcasing what is going on. Or show me another program like with this whole raffle and the 50-50 NIL stuff, which I know we've talked a lot about. Find me another program that's saying, we want this to happen, but we want to make sure that the money can go wherever we want it to go and not to NIL. Because I don't know, if I was an athletic director and my taxes were in order, my financial situation was in good shape, I'd probably be like, yeah, heck yeah, dude, get the casinos, get SARACEN to go after it. I need all the money we can get for NIL because I want to win a championship. But when the mentality isn't there and the communication's not there and the messaging is not there, I just have a hard time believing that Arkansas is just ahead of the curve and everybody else they're just dumb. These guys are stupid. They don't know what they're doing over there at Ole Miss. I just refuse to believe it.
Well, you just answered your own question because you were wondering, where's the money going? They're not spending. What's happening? What's up with this raffle thing where they only want to be able to put the money wherever? It's all the money is going towards being able to do that. That's to speak to the financial situation that you're talking about. Every dime, man, is all going towards that. I mean, I think that seems pretty clear to me at this point. Hopefully they get there. Well, then what do you do next year? to figure it out, because it's not going away. It's not like this is a one-time deal. So I'm fascinated, man, and maybe terrified also to see exactly how that's going to go. It also makes me wonder, and just going back to that Dellinger article, because that's where we got a lot of the information about, you know, they're going to have some people who are going to enforce to make sure that you don't go over the cap. Universities don't, with the revenue money that they're giving out. But two, that it's just going to be regulating other like outside NIL deals. And the reason they're doing that is because they're trying to get rid of or push out or minimize those collectives that are, you know, funded so heavily by boosters and everything else. So I guess my first question is, what does that mean for John Calipari and Tyson? Because I haven't heard anybody freaking out about that. Why? Because I don't think it's going to be a thing. I don't think it's going to be an issue. But two, like if that is the case, why are you hiring another executive director for Arkansas Edge? Isn't that pointless? I mean, it already was, but I mean, why spend money doing that if this isn't even going to be a big part of the equation? You're talking about how revenue sharing is saving everything. And then you've got this out, you know, external collective to generate a bunch of these other funds. And it's like, well, I don't understand, man. Like none of the math adds up to me here.
And again, it comes back to whatever the university's messaging is, we all just kind of have to eat it and accept it, but pay attention and read between the lines of what they say. Because think about how this all season started. It started by Sam Pittman saying, no, we got money. We got plenty of money. We're in great shape. And then he was citing revenue sharing as a reason for why they had a ton of money. And then we saw how the portal season played out. And so now we'll just continue to hear this messaging, and we hear, oh, everything's going to be fine because of blank, because of revenue sharing, because of a salary cap, because of whatever. Well, then at what point does that put a ton of pressure on the football team this year, where it's like, you know, because a lot of these things that we're talking about might not go into effect for a while, might not go into effect until the summer, might not even be really a thing until next offseason. And so I'm struggling to find how any of this is going to equate to Arkansas fielding a good football team in 2025. And we'll see what the future looks like. But I have yet to hear anyone, including Sam Pittman, explain to me how any of this is going to equate to Arkansas being anything other than below average in the SEC this year.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, because I know we all feel the same way. Our criticisms, it doesn't come from a place of like doing it just for the sake of doing it, and or some sort of hatred towards the program or towards Pittman or anything like that. It's just honest to God questions, and it's like things that we are curious about and we don't have answers on. And when we don't get answers, we just have to take what we see and try to put it together, right? And it's just legit questions. It could be this way for any program, for any coach that would be in this position. Because another thing that I know we want to discuss, and this might be one of the biggest issues that I have, which I have a lot, but this one might be one of the biggest issues that I have, is about the general manager. I remember I talked with Brandon Marcello, who will be joining us next week, by the way, to talk a lot more about this. But I remember talking with him before the new year started, and I brought up to him about the general manager role, because that was when Pittman said, I can't remember if it was pre-Texas Tech or post-Texas Tech in the Liberty Bowl, whatever it was, but saying that, we don't see the need for a general manager. Maybe in April we'll hire one. And I brought that up to Brandon Marcello, and he goes, "Hey, wait, they don't have a general manager?" It's like, no. Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's a bad move. And that's when it first hit me really hard. I knew it was kind of weird, but I was like, oh gosh, I don't like that. I don't like hearing that. And then we hear this morning that Sam Pittman says that they are going to be hiring a general manager. However, they're looking into late March, early April, but also hoping that it happens sooner. What? Hey, if you're going to hire a general manager, why didn't you hire them, I don't know, after the year ended or during the season or when you should have? And why are you still waiting? Like, what is going to happen between now and 3 weeks, 4 weeks from now to where you're going to hire one? Are you vetting candidates? Are you trying to
say,
like, if you're doing that, then what was the past 3-4 months for then? Like you see, I saw, what was the guy, the dude from the Senior Bowl got hired at Oklahoma, as the general manager, Jim Nagy or whatever. I was like, okay, so they hired a guy. What's going on here? So this whole general manager thing is important. It has to happen. But I do not understand timing, and I don't understand the wait, and I don't understand You said, we didn't need one at that time. Maybe we'll need one later. And now it's like, oh, we need one now. Like, what has happened here with the general manager?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's around the bowl game. He said maybe April, and then here we are in March, and he's saying maybe April. So I mean, it just kind of strikes me as them doing what they said they were going to do, and them doing what they always do, which is being behind the curve on everybody else. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just some super extensive, vetting and interview process here to find the right hire. And then maybe it would just be a home run. I don't know. But, one of the things that Sam said was he was really hoping that maybe, and you said this, John, alluded to it at least, that he wanted to get it done a little bit earlier because that spring portal window is going to open back up. So did you go through the entire winter portal period, which you already knew because he was talking about it before it even really got started, about how he's not crazy about some of those conversations that they have to have and everything. And there's reasons why you need a general manager. You went through all that and realized, I don't want to do this anymore. We need a money man to talk about all these issues. And so you're trying to get it done now after you've already built 90% of your roster without one. Like, it's just, what are we doing behind?
Yeah. Well,
and that's what Transplanted Texan here is asking about. Wouldn't a GM be needed before negotiating NIL with portal pickups and high school signings? Because that was another big part of what Sam Pittman's messaging has been all offseason, which is basically he's telling us all of his players came into his office and asked for more money, and the ones they couldn't give more money to, they let him walk. And he had all these conversations about budgeting and do we have enough for this guy? And maybe if we don't pay this guy, we'll spend that money for 3 guys elsewhere. And you guys all, I mean, when I say you guys, I mean, a lot of fans really ate that up and were like, you know what? We don't need Brad Curtis. We can get 3 offensive linemen. That's all fine. I just feel like that would have been the perfect time to have a GM. And especially if he's saying we really want to have a GM for the spring portal window. Like you said, Curtis, it's almost like an admission of guilt of like, we went through it for this past cycle and it stunk, which I just don't know how you could. We went into this offseason knowing there was a ton of pressure. Sam Pittman's going to be one of the top coaches on the hot seat going into this football season. It's kind of, this is a last-ditch effort this football season. Wouldn't you want to put all your chips into this basket and make sure you nail it this offseason rather than stinking this fall and saying, well, we didn't have our GM till April, and so if we had him then and now that plus the revenue sharing, it's like all the pressure was on this offseason, and we all knew that going into it. And you told us you had a ton of money going into the portal cycle, which you clearly didn't have. And so it's like, yeah, I do think if you can't get through the spring portal window without a GM, I don't know how the hell you got through the December and January portal window without a GM. And looking at the class, I think you can see that they had a little bit of an issue.
Yeah. And I want to be clear too, as far as my issue is not that they were talking about waiting towards April, which I still have an issue with that. My bigger issue was at the time Pittman was saying, this was again after around Texas Tech time, where me and Hunter Yurchek didn't see the need for that at this, but we may do one in April. So it was almost, at least at that time, they had talked about, hey, we didn't really feel like we needed one, but we may look into it. It kind of came across, and then now they're doing it, which I'm glad they're doing it because you need one. But it was more of, you didn't think you needed one, but then you came across it like, well, but we maybe in April we will. It's like, so you either need one or you don't. Like, you feel you do or you don't. Like, what is it here? So it just goes back to messaging, and it goes back to that issue. But who knows? Maybe they'll hire a humdinger of a GM and they'll get in there and get into the portal and go crazy with it. Maybe. But it's just, I don't know. I just feel like the things that Arkansas does and says with the current state of college football seems to be pretty opposite of what the rest of the country, or at least the rest of the SEC, is doing. And that comes across as very odd and very weird. So, but yeah, there's a lot to unpack in this whole thing. I mean, there's a lot ongoing stuff that happens in it too.
Are we going to play this clip or no? Because I have things to bring up from said clip, but I've been waiting.
I have one very clear reaction to the clip, and I do want to hear that.
Okay. I don't care if we do or not. Like, I can speak on it either way. I just saw it sitting down in the hopper that other people can't see.
Well, no, that's fine. I was actually thinking whenever, Ellis pops off, we do. But if Ellis wants to react to it, then we will. So I just wasn't sure.
We can talk hoops, John. We got
That's true. We will probably talk hoops while Ellis is gone, because I know people still want to talk about that. But I tell you what, we will get into the clip because we'll use that as our what to watch for segment. But real quick, before we do that, let's get Ryan in Hot Springs in, who is calling in here on the phone line. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, not a whole lot. I do think y'all might be a little hard on program a little bit. I'm not saying they ain't done some stuff wrong. They have. But I do feel like our political atmosphere, and I'm not trying to pick a side here, but I feel like they're dragging their feet a little bit when you see places like Missouri and Mississippi that have figuratively taken the gloves off to let them do basically what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
am I wrong on that?
no, I don't think you're wrong on that. But I think it's also when you do have those opportunities in front of you to start doing some things and to, kind of take it by the reins a little bit and try to make up for it. Again, you haven't done that. And also I still keep going back to it, and it's probably a broken record here, but it's the messaging on a lot of it. The messaging is just not coming across in a very positive way, in a very comforting way to at least me, to us, and to a lot of the fans.
Right. Well, I've the kind of vibe that I've gotten, I feel like they've told Pittman one thing, and then it's not being there. I don't think as much as he goes out of his way to be truthful towards us, because he's brutally honest even on himself. I do think he's telling us what he thinks is going to be there, and then maybe like a deal's not being held up on another end.
I mean, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of why John brought up a while ago about our criticisms, can only really speak on what we're told and what we're hearing. And the only thing we've heard is what's come out of Sam Pittman's mouth, because Hunter Yurchak, nobody else has said a word to anybody. So I don't necessarily blame him for feeling the way that he does. I think we all agree that it's not just his master plan. It's kind of the way he understands things, the way things have been directed towards him, whether that's the way it actually is or the way it'll play out or not. We don't really know, but all we can do is kind of react to what the head coach is telling us.
And yeah, I definitely don't think all this falls on Pittman. Hell, I said it earlier in the show that he's going to do everything he can in his power. I just don't think in this day and age, putting all that on your head coach, which is pretty much what Arkansas did this offseason. They were like, look, I know you've got a lot. You've got a hip surgery coming up, and I know you've got a pissed off fan base, and I know you've got a bunch of outgoing players. We're going to let you handle that on your own. You need to figure that out. You need to have all these conversations. And so Pittman and his staff, they put together the best class they could, which again on paper is one of the worst ones in the SEC. But I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think that was just kind of the cards they were dealt, and they can't spend money that they don't have, and so I think it's just gonna kind of all fall on Pittman. But I think this is a little bit of a failure from the top down, and this also isn't revisionist history because we've been talking about a GM since the fall, since August, since every other SEC team was hiring them. All these other SEC teams have tons of analysts and people to run numbers and all these different gurus that they have on their staff. Arkansas has like 1/3 of the football operations people that places like Ole Miss and Texas have, and so I just think it's like a little bit naive to just say, oh, well, I know that all this stuff's going on in college football and it's a completely different world, but our head coach who's having hip surgery, he's going to figure it all out. I feel like it's a tough position that they put him in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we can discuss this more. I know we'll have some calls and chats to get to, folks, and we will get to those, but we'll use this as part of our What to Watch segment presented by Bryant Technologies, where, of course, they're dedicated to delivering high-quality network infrastructure and security camera solutions. They take pride in their exceptional workmanship and commitment to keeping your business operations seamlessly connected and secure, whether it's structured cabling, security camera installation, digital signage, or even TV mounting. Bryant Technologies has you covered for all of those things. And they also service the entire state of Arkansas, as well as all the bordering states of Arkansas, too. So have Bryant Technologies help you with all of your network and security needs. Give them a call today at 870-883-0330. That's 870-883-0330. Or you can check out their website at bryantstechnologies.com. That's Bryant's with an S in between, bryantstechnologies.com. It's Bryant Technologies, quality work guaranteed. So let's go ahead and jump into this, guys, because I know that Sam Pittman went on the Coaches in the Mouth podcast, which was Bray Cook and a few others in there. And he said, doing the car wash. I like that hoodie that he's wearing, by the way, with the hog winging on the A. We'll say that. But this is a long clip, and we can talk a few things about it. But basically, he was talking about NIL, transfer portal, processes behind the scenes and everything. Some pretty fascinating stuff. So take a listen here from Sam Pittman.
But what happens, here's what happens. The agent calls. So I'm representing Bray. I call LSU, say, hey, what do you think of Bray Cook? You know, oh man, we need him. You know, well, how much? What do you think of him? Well, let's say Bray's making $20 for Arkansas.
That's about right. Yeah.
And that was a little not overworked. No. That was a little over what you really did make. But let's say he's making $20, and I'm his agent. LSU give him $30. I get on the phone to A&M. They say, well, I can give him $25. Well, you can't get him. Okay, I'll give him $40. Okay, you're thinking about it. I'll help you. Call Texas. I'll give him $45. Before you know it, not only is Bray mad at me because you underpaid me last year. You underpaid me. I made $20 and I can make 60. Put it in hundreds of thousands. I made 200,000. I can make 600,000. They already know it when they walk into your room. The agents already told them, I got 600,000 from whomever. I got it. Not only now that puts me in a terrible situation, but they think that we underpaid them. Now they come in mad. Where they were happy when they got the money, now they're coming in mad. And it's not a let's sit down. For the most part, it's not a let's sit down and let's talk about it. It's I was underpaid. I love you. I loved it here at Arkansas, but I'm going in the portal. And that's
Can we stop it here?
How?
Okay, because I know this is a long clip.
Yeah. I was about to stop it anyways, but yeah.
Here's my question. Why isn't Arkansas doing exactly this on the other end of it? That's my question. I mean, this is happening anywhere. Are those agents calling Arkansas and then these players somewhere else going into their coach's office saying, listen, you underpaid me, but Arkansas is going to give me $600K instead of $200K. Doesn't sound to me like the playing field is too level. You know, but that's Arkansas needs to be doing this. This is not a woe is me type of thing. I understand what he's saying. Like, I'm sure that's probably the case. You know, but like Arkansas needs to be the team that is in that position if they're going to get where the fan base would like to see them get as a program over the next several years.
100%. What he's saying is 1000% truthful. Like, I'm not disagreeing with like, Sam Pittman's telling the truth. That's actually his experience. You don't think Cam Shanks went into UAB's office and was like, hey, Arkansas is giving me some money? But no, seriously. But again, it comes back to the same thing of, like we said, the revenue sharing. How is Arkansas any different than every other school? Is this not happening everywhere else? Because Arkansas led the entire country, led the entire SEC by a wide margin in outgoing transfers, despite retaining the entire staff. Why is this issue only having a massive effect on Arkansas? And I'm not saying it doesn't have an effect everywhere else, but I mean, to the extent where Arkansas loses 7, 8, 9, like they lost almost double-digit returning starters to the portal, that didn't happen everywhere else in the SEC. So I would really love to get to the crux of that. Why is that not happening everywhere else? And why is it happening more so to you than anyone else, to your competitors?
Well, and also I'll throw this in. To me, it's no different than what it was pre-NIL when it came to recruiting. Kid comes to you and is like, hey, I love you, coach, and I'm committing to you. Okay. And then time goes on, they meet with some other school. That other school throws them some sort of pitch or whatever, and they come back to you like, hey, I'm going to this other place. And because they're offering playing time or they're offering me this, that, or the other. Like, did you ever complain? Did you ever bring that up as far as like, oh, well, you know, it's just a kind of hard because we come out here and, you know, they promise them playing time and, you know, they more than what we were promising. And it's frustrating. It's like, okay, but that's recruiting. That's just part of it. Like, you got to be able, as you said, Curtis, to also do the same to other places. Like, you got to be able to get those kids to come to you because you're the one that's doing the big offering and all of that. Like, I don't understand why you take that approach to it.
It takes me back to the conversation of the importance of having a GM, because what Sam's getting ready to say, and I get it, like I understand where he's coming from, is okay, well, then you have to figure out how much, you know, money you have, what you think a player is worth. Do I let him go? Do I bring in 2 or 3 players at that price, which is exactly what they kind of did, is Moneyball this whole situation. a player is worth, like their market value is whatever a school is willing to pay them. So if somebody's coming in and sitting down that office and saying, yeah, Ole Miss is going to pay me 3 times as much as I'm getting here at Arkansas, if that's what they think this player is worth, and if you don't think that's true, then maybe you're right, or maybe they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just it's, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't like it. We had this conversation back in December before the portal started. He had a lot of the same things to say there, but I don't know, man.
Well, we could keep we'll keep playing this and get to some other of the quotes here too from Pittman.
What is, and that's how it works at a lot of different places. And so at that point, my point being is you're going to pay what you can pay, but at some point there is a limit of what you can pay one guy, because you're going, well,
and
if
yours
you
is
leave,
different
I can
than Ole
replace
Miss's.
you with 3. And then your feeling of value has to be, and we've done really good in the portal, and we did this year too.
Objectively,
but you've got to be willing to take the heat that all hell's breaking loose, and you lost this guy, and it doesn't matter whether the guy was a really good player or he was a player from the state of Arkansas. Or
it does matter. It
Yeah,
very
it
much
absolutely
does
matters.
matter. What do
It
you mean
matters.
it doesn't matter if the guy was a good player? That does matter. When you lose good players, yeah, you're going to take heat for it.
whatever, it's going to be an uproar. And then you look at his stats, and he had 1 catch for whatever. He didn't play, but he played on special teams.
Okay, who was the player? Tell me, guys, who was the player this year that he's referring to that like had 1 catch?
He's referencing Davion Dozier. I'm
Dude.
pretty sure. He's referencing Davion Dozier, who left a week before the season ended. And by the way, incorrect retelling of history, because you know who cared when Davion Dozier entered the portal? Not a damn soul. We didn't even hardly y'all. I remember one of y'all scrambled to crank out a video when it happened. I was watching Wicked in the theater. I remember this vividly. Nobody cared about Davion Dozier. We threw a fit whenever they lost some other guys. Nobody threw a fit about Davion Dozier. So this is just like a thing. This is a straw man argument. Here's what this is. Nobody was talking about this.
Even after Desmond James went Randy Moss in the Liberty Bowl and he hit the portal. I mean, we talked about it, but it was like, hey, don't get too caught up in one game. You know, like they brought guys in, whatever. It's like, it's, you know,
we
context.
were less pissed than the fans were about Desmond James. We were like, I mean, we're not going to pretend to lose too much sleep over this. So again, he's like trying to answer you say this, and it's not incorrect. Yeah, we'll let Davion Dozier go. What about Patrick Kudus? What about Luke Haas? What about Braylon Russell? I guess they ended up getting back. Like, what about Satania? What about all these guys that you lost for no reason? Like, nobody cares about the Davion Doziers. We care about the 10 starters that you lost.
Yeah, and then the Davion Dozier, whoever, is just, it's like that icing on the cake. When you already lost all those players, it's kind of like, okay, so you just lost another one. Like, if they would have lost Davion Dozier or whatever, the very first player, it probably no one would have given a rip. But the fact that it was him on top of all the other players that you lost, that's where it was kind of like, okay, geez, you just added, you for 2 straight years, you lost more players in the portal than any other school in the SEC. And yeah, I'm sorry. When you go 4-8 and 6-6, that's going to cause some people to be concerned about the stability of your program, regardless.
The state, the negative people are going to come out and go, oh my God, what's wrong? You know, all this. And I'm going, we lost a guy that caught a ball in the first game of the season.
That was 1 of 35.
And nobody knows that, you know, he might have come in and wanted an ungodly amount of money. And I'm going, bro, if we did that, we'd need a $45 million budget, you know, and it's not monopoly money. And collectives are from those folks that went out, worked, and paid to the collective. It's not monopoly, and I'm not about to spend it freely. I'm going to be educated on it because it's not my money.
Well, the rest of the SEC seems to be spending pretty freely, I guess, and putting out a lot of talent and getting your best players. So, yeah, that's, I don't know.
I would be all for not paying whoever these guys are who had 1 reception a bunch of money, and then using that money to get impact additions out of the transfer portal, or turning those funds and flipping them into the guys on your roster who you want to keep, who were contributors that caught more than one pass or whatever. I mean, I get it, but it's just a lot of missing context, I feel like.
By the way, I see people complaining about Desmond James, and he was talking about one catch at the beginning of the year, which the guy who fits that description is Davion Dozier. Desmond James, we told you, isn't that big of a deal. Like, I know he had a good game. He had that one good catch in the Liberty Bowl, but like him entering the portal was really just kind of funny at the moment. But he's referencing Davion Dozier here. And even if he was referencing Desmond James, not even the list of concerns. He's not one of the 10 returning starters that they let walk and let go to another SEC team.
Yeah, not to get political, but I'm going to do. This kind of reminds me of like when a bill is thrown out there and it's got like 18,000 different things in it and it doesn't get passed. And then the people are complaining. They're really like, so you don't care about hungry children? Because it was like one of the smallest things that you're like, they obviously don't care about this. It's like, you're taking this thing of what people are upset by in the smallest realm and being like, you're upset by this guy? If you only knew. No, that's not what people are upset by. They were upset by your best players going to other SEC schools. Plain and simple. That's what upset people. If you still had Lucas, if you still had your Patrick Kudus, if you still had the players that went to other SEC schools, Brad Spence, Josh Braun, Azzik, all that, I think it would be a different feeling. People wouldn't still be great about the program, but if they're good enough to play over at Ole Miss or at Texas or wherever, you feel like they were good enough to play at Arkansas and you lost them. That's what people are upset by, not these players at the very bottom of the depth chart. So it just feels like he's taking it so far to a one way of being like, this is what people are upset by. No, they're upset by good players leaving. That's what it is.
I would, probably suggest just not worrying about so much about what other people think, because if it wasn't for having to make those remarks, so often about, well, people are upset, but your job's bigger than that, man. Because I would like to say in defense of Sam Pittman, I don't doubt that this is the situation he's in. Yeah. And I don't think that's his fault.
Yeah.
I don't. But it was when you hear all this other stuff where you're kind of like, it
just doesn't do it for me. Was there anything else in this clip? I know it was a long clip. Is there anything else?
No, I really wanted to just freak out about the Davion Dozier thing. Okay. I can't believe he cited that as like a case like that. That was the story of the offseason and conveniently left out. I have the list here right in front of me. All these guys that went to Jalen Braxton goes to Ole Miss, Kudus goes to Ole Miss, Haz goes to Ole Miss. He didn't address any of that. Reference Davion Dozier going to whatever JUCO he ended up at.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Again, my thing is messaging, and messaging it's been crazy. And I guess the press conference that he's going to be in starts in less than 10 minutes. So how many Andreas Posky questions do you think get asked today?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Probably a few. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. We got Unbiased Brim. We'll get to the chat too, folks. Don't worry, but I want to get Unbiased Brim in here. What's up, Unbiased?
Gentlemen, how y'all doing this wonderful afternoon?
Doing good, man.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to ask you gentlemen the question here. When NIL started, was HY moving proactively, or was he complaining and nookie footing around?
Is this a rhetorical question?
This is a John Calipari type question. Yeah, he was very resistant to NIL for a while there.
Oh, I couldn't hear what y'all said.
He's very resistant to NIL.
Exactly. So I can't put this on Pittman in regards to the NIL aspect. This is strictly square on HY. His hesitation in embracing it and setting the tone and the standard set us back. And then we hear the complaining, and then it's about what the fans and what need to contribute. No. It's your fault because you did not embrace it fast enough, and instead of you were playing catch up the whole time now.
Yeah.
And talking football is almost depressing to some degree.
Yeah, we do understand.
The basketball, we struggling, we fight we fighting hard to get an NCAA tournament. I'm very excited and happy because why the team is scrappy, we losing players, and we still finding ways to win certain games. Talking football, I think it just changed the mood of the fan base when we go straight to football.
Yeah. Well,
No,
I think, there's some truth to that. But hey, Unbiased, we appreciate your call, man. We got to keep moving on, but we appreciate hearing from you. Yeah. And that's the thing is we're not here to oppress everybody. We're just here to talk about it because it's what was going on. And that's what's happening today. So trying to get on the forefront of everything. But I know that in Sam Pittman will be meeting with the media. But I tell you what, let's go ahead and real quick for the top of the hour hits. Let's do your Alumni Hall question of the day presented by Alumni Hall. We're going to be there tomorrow, folks, at noon. So come see us right at noon. And you'll be able to check out all the great Razorback apparel that they have. And if you come in, give us a little fist bump, use that code HOGSBY20, get 20% off your purchase right there at 3417 North College Avenue. You can also shop them online at InsideArkansas.com/Alumni Hall. It's Alumni Hall, the ultimate Razorback shopping experience. Sam Pittman talked about, just having a spring game and how they are having a spring game. I'm just curious. Do you guys want Arkansas to have a spring game? Yes, no, or do you care either way?
I don't care. I do not care. I don't think that they're streaming it or showing it on television, though.
Really?
I think I read that right. And so then people shouldn't worry about Brent Venables driving over under the cloak of darkness 3 hours and poaching your good players or something. So
hey, but at least they got that junior DB from Ben Venables though in the trade. But no, I'm like Curtis. I don't really care. I will lean yes, only because there's no downside to me for it where I'm like, it's just a good time for us to go out there, overreact to whatever we see. But no, I don't think in a big picture sense, it's very rare that like something has happened in the fall and we looked back and said, man, the spring game is when we saw this coming. That was a sign. I think the spring game is really just it's a scrimmage. It's a glorified, no matter what format you do, whether it's ones versus threes, ones versus twos, you even do good on good ones versus ones. It usually ends up being a stalemate. It's really tough to take anything when these teams don't have a vast majority of their offense put in, when you don't even have a lot of pieces that are going to be on the team in the fall. It is really tough to like draw definitive conclusions, but why not? Let's go ahead and have it spring game.
Well, as of right now, 61% of you agree that you don't care either way. 29% say yes, they want to have a spring game, and 11% say no. So I feel like that's the case too, because I'm kind of with you, Curtis, and with the voters. Is like I don't care either way. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's not going to change anybody's mind or anything. I just think that it's just still living from what it was 10 years ago or so, when spring games were a thing, and they were trying to basically have a pissing contest between all the schools of who could have the most people in attendance for games, even though there was no way to know how many people were actually there because you didn't count and you didn't have tickets to it. So it's something where Pittman was big on it, and that's fine, have it. But if he came out and says I don't want it, then that's fine too. Does not matter. But I was just curious to see what people thought about the spring game, and I know they got like hog festivities and fan day and all that stuff going on with it too. So
I like that. I like just doing the typical spring game in its current format more than I like what some of these other folks are doing. Cancel it or do it normal. But who was it? Oklahoma, or is it somebody else that's doing like a combine day and they're having assistant coaches participate in drills and different, like it's almost like
Calipari influence.
It's like trying to do the Pro Bowl nowadays. I don't know. It's like you can miss me with that. Either have the actual game itself or just don't do it, period.
Yeah, I like this comment from Trey. He says, some schools such as Texas are not doing them. I'm curious if more and more keep canceling them and changing it. How long will it take for Arkansas to follow suit? Will Arkansas be the last team in the SEC still doing a spring game?
Well, probably so, because they're usually last in changing and doing things anyway. So it's probably the case. But Ellis, I know you have to go get on that press conference to give us those updates on Andreas Poski. So let us know.
I'll be back with the scoops, boys.
Can't wait.
Stick around. Stick around. I'll be back with scoops.
Yep. Can't wait to hear it. All right. Appreciate you, Andrew. So a few of the chats we'll get into with me and Curtis. We'll talk some basketball too, because I know that's what a lot of people truly, actually deeply care about right now.
Like there's a rain cloud hanging over my head.
I know. I started feeling like, man, we got dark quick. Started people getting upset and everything. But shout out to Quinn, good friend and super chatter. Appreciate your super chat. He says, all depends on what y'all as a fan base consider successful for football. I talked about this a couple weeks ago with John and Curtis. Yeah, when we met with Quinn, we talked about football and the expectations of what Razorback football is. And
there's definitely a difference between what the fan base I think feels like is acceptable, what they're striving for, and what the university itself is looking at. And that's not me saying Sam Pittman doesn't want to win. You know,
Right.
he doesn't want to go to the college football play. No, I'm not saying that at all. But the bar, I think, is set a little bit higher on the expectation meter from the fan base about what's acceptable and what you can roll with and what you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to make this clear, and in case I haven't, but the criticisms that I know I've thrown in Sam Pittman's way, it would be probably different if there was a different coach in there in the same circumstances, but a different coach in there given a different messaging. That's the thing that I think is just bothersome and worrisome, is just the inconsistent messaging of a lot of this stuff. I think the circumstances are, as you said, Curtis, outside of Pittman's control. Like it's just, I'm sure, be honest, Sam Pittman would rather have all the NIL money he could have and have all the GMs and all of it. I just don't think Sam Pittman's sitting back being like, if you got offered $30 million in NIL, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe. Well, let's think about it. No, he would take it. So
Sure.
Yeah, it's the cards he's been dealt. It's just a matter of he's sitting there with his cards and trying to make sense out of it and don't really understand why it's going on. And everyone else is like, hey, well, how about you just play the game? Right? Just go play it. Just go play the cards. We don't want to hear it. Like, it's tough. So I feel him.
Same page. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see a few other chats here to get into. Ryan says, I'm not going to lie, Pittman's interview about football wasn't bad to me. I like how he's pretty transparent about some mistakes they've made and his unwillingness to adapt. But as long as we fix it, then good. So, yeah, I mean,
so he's unwilling to adapt, and now we're supposed to believe that he's going to fix it. Did I read that right? Or
well, see, I think he's saying that he admitted his mistakes in his unwillingness to adapt, but they're trying to fix. I think that's what he was trying to say. Which, if that's the case, yes, I do agree with. But again, it's about concern and being worried about. Okay, well, if he's unwilling to adapt, like somebody just because become willing to adapt to something, especially something as big and if they feel so strongly about something, like that just doesn't happen. Yeah. I don't see it that way. But let's see.
Get that man a GM and let him try to coach football. Let him worry about his offensive line. Let him keep those good relationships with players, which is something that he's been really good at, and that might be a little bit convoluted now because of the money aspect of things. I don't think he's super comfortable having those conversations with. I do think getting that done would help him a lot. So.
Oh yeah, I do too. Let's see a few other football, and then we'll switch over to basketball. Yeah, Trey says, question, some are saying that Pittman isn't on the hot seat. What is y'all's thoughts? I'm assuming they may be correct since the women's basketball coach is coming back.
Two different worlds.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. People being frustrated with Mike Neighbors and everything. And like the results haven't been there. But I just don't know how, when we're talking about just penny pinching as much as they are, that you could pay a non-revenue sport any amount of a buyout to have a coaching change.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't sound fair or whatever. I'm sorry, but I don't know what his buyout is, $1 million or something, I just, then where are you going to recoup those funds? And then who are you going to hire? And,
yeah.
I think he's doing a good enough job to keep his job. No, of course not. I don't think anybody would really argue with that, but
yeah, it's a thing to where, yes, a lot, like it's bad and it's not getting the job done, but I'm also not going to sit here and throw fits if they don't fire Mike Neighbors right now because of what it means. I get it. Nobody wants to lose, and they were disgustingly bad this year, especially given how great of a player they had in Higginbottom.
I would love to say definitively that Sam Pittman's on the hot seat going into next season, but I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, we thought he was on the hot seat this past year, and
because what we thought the expectations weren't necessarily that. I mean, does he just need to, go 6-6 and get to a bowl again? Or like, what are the parameters? We don't really know, because I think we have a hard time understanding exactly what the messaging is and the expectations are from the U of A there. So it's hard for me to say. My assumption is that he is, and I'm pretty confident in saying that any college football coach's hot seat list that comes out between now and the start of the season is going to have him near the top of it. But in terms of the reality of the situation, I don't really know.
Yeah. I don't know either.
By the way, we were told by Andrew Ellis that the press conference has started and Sam Pittman's microphone is not on.
Great start. We're in mid-season form. That's awesome.
Get my man off mute.
can't do anything right. Like, find me a school that struggles with Zoom conferences more than the University of Arkansas, man.
That's
It's
hilarious.
it's been around since COVID, folks. It's 5 years. The Zoom conferences are not that difficult, my people. Good.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, geez. Well, then we'll have some really great. Hopefully, Ellis is good at lip reading because we're gonna have to hopefully figure that out. A few more chats here too, and we'll get to some basketball talk.
And I have one too before we get to basketball talk. It's sort of basketball talk. Just a part of it looks like a separate conversation is being had here, but Transplanted Texan says Tyson self-supports the men's basketball program. The football program has to get their own benefactors. Again, this is where the mixed messaging comes into account here that confuses me because kind of based on what Pittman is saying from what he's being told or whatever, and then some of the reporting from Ross Dellinger is that they're trying to create it to where this cannot happen.
Yeah.
To where a guy like Tyson can't hand $8 million or $10 million or however many dollars to John Calipari and say, build your basketball roster, because they don't want it to be a booster funded thing. They want to determine what is fair market value for every single NIL deal that's not part of the revenue sharing model or whatever. So if that's the case, would this go away? Well, if that's true, then why are we not hearing anybody talk about it? Why are we not hearing any basketball programs freak out about it? Any of these places with the huge donors and everything. So it just makes me wonder again, who's right and who's wrong in their messaging.
Well, also too, just because knowing how schools go, even if they do put in all this stuff, not saying that there won't be some consequences and whatnot, but I still feel like schools are going to pay the kids $20 million my foot. They're not going to just sit there with that. Come on,
man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like if Tyson, you think John Tyson's going to be like, Kyle's going to come to him back, hey, Tyson, sorry, they passed this new law. We appreciate all the money you're giving us, but you're just going to have to keep your money now. And we're going to be fine over here. And I mean, that's just not going to happen. So they're going to find ways. They're going to find ways. Let's just see if they're actually have a spine more so than what the NCAA did when it comes to punishments and whatnot. Let's see. Also, I don't even know what Ryan says that we just got John's blood pressure regulated on post football season. Here we go. What is that word? What is that? Lisinopril? I don't know what that is.
It's probably to get you balanced out.
No.
You get a little riled up sometimes talking about these things.
No, it's mainly my tooth that hurts. How about some morphine for that? No, I'd rather have that right now. Also, let's see. What was the other one? Oh, I like this from Jake. He said, y'all three could run a better athletic program than Yurichek. I don't know about that. I'll be honest. I know there's some things I could 100% do better than Hunter Yurichek, but there's a lot of things I know 100% I could not do better. So,
and it's, again, like I don't know how many athletic directors or departments across the country hold like weekly press conferences or whatever and just spill all the tea, on what's going on behind the scenes. I would probably not have so many questions if we had more answers.
Yep.
Like it just, some of it's really, really head scratching. I'm sure if was able to sit down, behind a cold beer or an old fashioned or whatever Hunter Yurichek drinks and just have a very transparent conversation about it, I would probably walk away with a much better understanding of the situation. I don't doubt that at all. But I mean, we only know what we know.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like a lot of and just trying to talk to Ryan's phone call earlier, it feels like a lot of our critiques and everything, like especially today, have gone on Sam Pittman when it really hasn't. It's just, it's been his words because he's the only one who's been able to portray any sort of message whatsoever. And that's all we have to react to. And it's like, I feel like it's not fair to say that we're just directly criticizing him. It's just the, a part of it's the directive that he's given and the situation that he's in.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, let's see, this one from John, he says, it's like they don't understand that it's still NIL on top of the $20.5 million, which is true. Like they're still NIL.
It's my biggest thought process on the whole 50-50 raffle thing.
Yeah.
But
again, it could all change tomorrow for all we know. Like just the way things have gone and how the ever changing climate that it is, it could absolutely happen. And real quick, Quinn, our guy, sent us another super chat. He says, your athletic department reminds me of ours just a couple of years ago. Luckily ours isn't a joke anymore. Well, thanks, Quinn. Appreciate you.
I'm glad to hear you're thriving.
Yeah. Thanks. Doing well over there, which Auburn, at least in football, hasn't been, but in basketball, they certainly are at this point. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into some more of your chats, but as well as some more conversations to deal with basketball. And we appreciate BetSaracen being a part of us here at Inside Arkansas. You can download the app, win some big money with all the specials that they have locally here on your iPhone or on your Android. You can download the app there, or you can just go to BetSaracen.com and get to betting that way. It's the #1 sports betting app in the state of Arkansas by far. So download today. It's BetSaracen and BetSaracen.com. So talk a little basketball. This got actually a question from Triple H or Double H. We can just go ahead and bring this on up. It's like, Curtis, can you explain why Lenardi has Utah State, Georgia, and Ohio State above us in his last 4 buys, metric wise? I'm struggling to see it, which, by the way, yes, I meant to have the graphic. I don't have it pulled up, but Joe Lenardi does have Arkansas as the last 4 buys as in his latest version of bracketology.
Yeah. So basically they're on the 10-11 cut line there, but ahead of, like, not projected to go to Dayton right now. So win Saturday and you avoid Dayton, right? But to answer your question, Georgia, if you looked at the metrics, it's pretty easy to understand. They rank ahead of Arkansas in literally every one of them. Every metric that's on the team sheet, Georgia is ahead of Arkansas. So that would be why in their case. Utah State, it's tricky. Like, Arkansas is ahead of them and the KPI and strength of record and wins above bubble, but they're also below them in KenPom and the Torvik rankings and stuff like that. It's close, I think, between those two. Ohio State, I think, is very, very close right now. I really do think that could be a coin flip, and you will probably see Arkansas ahead of Ohio State in some projections and below them in others. If I had to come up with a reason why they might be ahead of Arkansas, it'd be that one extra quad one win right now, when everything else is so close in the metrics or whatever. But the thing about Ohio State is they play Indiana, I guess it is, this weekend. If Ohio State loses to Indiana and they lose in the first round of the Big Ten tournament, which they're not a high seed in, so it's going to be a competitive game, they're not going to the NCAA tournament because they're only going to be like a game above 500 at that point. The committee's just not going to put you in unless you're more than 3 games over 500. So we might not have to talk about them too much, but yeah, Georgia's just objectively ahead of Arkansas right now. You could debate the other two.
Also, I saw, because somebody asked me this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, that where it stands right now for as far as the SEC tournament goes, Arkansas would be facing Oklahoma, correct, in their game, and then Georgia and Texas would face each other. If I have that correct, unless Arkansas loses and Georgia wins, like, that's the only way that Georgia can get ahead of Arkansas. Gotcha. In the seeding order. And so that impacts everything. So if that happens, then Arkansas would be the 12 or whatever, and they'd be in the 12-13, and they'd play Oklahoma, I guess it would be, or Texas actually is who they would play in that scenario. But if Arkansas wins, they're going to have the tiebreaker over Georgia no matter what. So if Arkansas wins Saturday, they're at least 11th. They could be as high as 9th. I'm also curious
how everything else goes.
Well, I'm curious too, because I don't know. The SEC tournament is just fascinating in stupid ways to me. But say if Arkansas beats Mississippi State on Saturday and they lose first game, does that have any bearing? I don't think it should. But does the SEC tournament actually have any bearing if you just lose the first game and go home?
Yes. Yeah, it absolutely does. If the committee does what it says it does in terms of what they value, they treat every game equally. So a November game is as important as a March game. And, playing in the Hall of Fame Classic in Kansas City over Thanksgiving is the same as playing a neutral site SEC tournament game. They value all that stuff. It's just one data point in a large body of work. So according to them, it does. It's the deeper you get. Like Wednesday, Thursday stuff, it absolutely matters. The deeper you get towards the weekend, the more decisions that have already been made by the selection committee. Like, they've already made some cuts. They've already locked some teams in or whatever. It matters less the further you get unless you win the thing. Wednesday would be huge, for Arkansas, because let's say you beat Mississippi State, right? And Georgia beats Vanderbilt. Well, then you're the 9 and you play the 16. So on one hand, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, Arkansas beat Mississippi. They're in. They're a lock. Well, unless you go get your ass kicked by South Carolina again on Wednesday, because then there's a tough one on the resume. So it absolutely matters. I actually would prefer Arkansas to be in that 11-12 range in terms of seeding. That way, no matter what, they've got a quad one game for Wednesday sadness, because then if you lose, it doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah. I mean, I know that if as long as you get in the tournament, that's the main thing. But if you can get in there and it's all about matchups, as we know. But I'll ask you this, Curtis: if there's one shot at another SEC team again that you could have in the SEC tournament, who would you want your shot at?
Oklahoma.
I would too. That was exactly what I was going to say. I want that. Even though Oklahoma is, we'll get to the SEC update. Had a win last night that was big, but
they're the best offensive team I've ever seen in the history of basketball. I have never this season turned an Oklahoma game on the television and seen them miss a shot.
Well, that's what you keep tweeting out. You're like, this team hits 100% of their shots. It's crazy.
They didn't miss. They shot 100% against Missouri last night. It was incredible in front of dozens of fans. It was unreal, man. I turned them on randomly against Mississippi State, I think last weekend, and they shot 80% in the second half. I turned it on last night. They shot 76% in the first half. I'm like, man.
It just makes me laugh because I got texted y'all last night too. I'm like watching Oklahoma, whoever's like tournament team and all that. I was like, I have never seen a tournament team have an arena a quarter full in their conference game at the end of the year. It's weird seeing that, but they're in that position at least right now. That is for sure. I'll tell you what, we'll get some of your chats again, folks. But there's a little bit of what's more likely. Speaking with basketball, and Curtis, I want your thoughts on some of these things. And some of it may be Ellis with baseball, but hey, we can answer. He doesn't know baseball anyways. What does he know? Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this. What's more likely, Curtis? Arkansas to beat Mississippi State by 30 or lose to Mississippi State by 30 on Saturday?
Beat Mississippi State by 30.
I was hoping you would say that. I was like, oh gosh, please don't. But yeah,
if you had 3 guys foul out and you're playing with 4, then it might be easy enough to get in that situation. But it's at Bud, man. Come on.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just it goes back to the whole thing. I see all these other SEC teams. It feels like every SEC team has like one win where they've won by 25, 30 points. I just want Arkansas to have one. Like just one. That's all I'm asking.
Right. I wanted to just pull this up real quick.
Yeah.
There's Georgia could beat Vanderbilt by 100 on Saturday, and that Vandy win for Arkansas would still be a quad 1.
Yeah. Just the quad. Yeah. I'm sure you get those questions a lot too, but I get some about is it a quad 1? Is this a quad 1? It's like, yeah, I mean, it is sometimes
on the road. It's a top 75 team in the net. So like, there's no way that won't be a quad 1 for Arkansas.
All right. So how about this one for as far as the SEC and everything goes? What's more likely, the SEC to have all Final Four teams or Arkansas to make it to the Final Four themselves?
The SEC to have all Final Four teams.
And it would be Bama, Auburn, Florida, and Tennessee. If you had to bet on them, those 4?
Sure.
Okay. I was hoping maybe that would throw me throwing 4 of the 4 in there. It would maybe offset it a little bit, but at what point would you say it's more likely for Arkansas to get to the Elite 8, Sweet 16, somewhere in there maybe? Give Arkansas the nod?
Sweet 16?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that. All right. So how about this? This is also a little bit of baseball, but what's more likely, John Calipari to go to 1 Final Four in the next 5 years or Dave Van Horn to go to 3 College World Series in the next 5 years? See, I got a good one in there. Got a good one in there.
Give me Cal.
Good. I was going to take Cal too, because getting to the College World Series is tough, but also Dave Van Horn, I know the past 2 years and all that, but he's 2018, 19, and 22. So he's made to 3 of the last 6 years. So it's kind of on pace for that, but Cal surely just one, get to the Final Four. That'd be great. I'd appreciate it at least. Who knows? Maybe it's this year. Probably not, but I'm hopeful.
WKRP, they literally won by 13 2 days ago. Just
talking about Arkansas?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Who did they beat by 13?
Vanderbilt.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Sorry. I was looking at.
If we're going to throw shade, we just got to be accurate. That's all.
No. I'm glad you are, because I'm an idiot. I was looking at the schedule. I had the schedule in front of me. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not there. I was looking at Oklahoma's schedule. I was like, what the crap? Like, when did they play when did they play Missouri and win last time? Like, I don't remember that. But they did do that too. So yes. All right. And then also, again, since I was in here, we'll just do a little baseball stuff. What's more likely, 2 Razorback baseball players to hit for the cycle or a Razorback baseball player to break Hagen Smith's record of 17 strikeouts in a game this season, as in?
Okay, I was about to say. That's tough. Hagen.
I think so.
Somebody break his record.
Okay. It's crazy. I was actually going to say the cycle just because I know the cycle is ridiculous and there's not been a lot of players doing it, but man, 17 strikeouts, especially when you got SEC play about around the corner.
Let me make sure I'm reading this right.
Yeah.
You guys to do it throughout the course of the season.
Correct.
Not in the same game.
Correct. Right.
Okay. Then I take the cycle. I take the cycle.
Okay.
So I think I was looking at that wrong initially.
Yeah. I probably worded it wrong because I don't do words.
Because they play these midweek games where they, you can just feast on some dudes. And like your weekend arms are going to be pitching against the better teams.
Yeah.
Like if Gackle was pitching against ULM the other day or whatever, then maybe you go out there and get 18 strikeouts or something. But these guys are always going to be able to hit. So, okay. Yeah, I was reading it wrong at first. My bad.
Oh, no. I should have put that in the season in there too. But I'll save that one for Ellis whenever he comes back. But I saw his tweet. He said that it'd been 10 minutes into the press conference and still no mic for Pittman. So
good.
We're going to get
I saw Trey
tweet out something.
Tweeted out that Pittman said that they have no doubt upgraded the team offensively. That's a bold statement, man. I hope so. I am looking forward to it.
Because what the offense was in total yards, wasn't it like second or third in the SEC last year? Total yardage? Or am I making that up? Thought that they were at least in the top half.
I don't know.
Yeah. Bold statement for sure. And how about this? Another final. What's more likely? Razorback football to hire a good general manager or to get a big time player from the portal in the spring? What's more likely?
How do we define big time player from the portal?
I look at it as one to where we go live and we're like, wow, look at this type of thing.
Good GM.
I'd probably say good GM because at least that's a mystery. You never know.
They get dudes in the spring portal window that wind up like starting for him or being good. But I don't know that it's going to be like a monster name hits the portal and Arkansas gets him kind of deal. Have we ever seen that happen?
Yeah. I haven't, but hey, it's first time for everything, right? First time for everything. All right. Let's actually get back into your chats because I know there'll be a few other things. Actually, I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and do your SEC update. We'll get to your chats whenever Ellis comes back on. It's your SEC update presented by Rhoback. Go to rhoback.com. Use promo code HOGS by 20 for 20% off your first purchase. And last night had some SEC action and some pretty big games and some upsets even. As we'll start with the upset that happened with Tennessee and Ole Miss. Ellis kind of called it a little bit yesterday. But Ole Miss gets the victory over Tennessee, 78-76. Ole Miss tried, dude. They fouled that guy on that 3-point shot and gave him the 4-point play. And I thought that was going to be curtains for them. And Tennessee even had that final shot just hit the back of the rim. I don't know if they got it off in time. It was close, but big win for Ole Miss. And the delayed storming of the court thing was strange. I thought that was weak, but either way.
Awkward.
Yeah, I know. It's like I tweeted, I was like, man, that was the weakest thing. And some person's like, oh, it was a delayed. They waited until the other team got off the court. I'm like, I know. That's what made it weak is because you have like 20 kids out there like, yay. And all the other ones are like, guys, you should have followed the rules. We got to wait. And then the team gets off. They're like, okay, everybody, let's come down here. And then it's like, yay. It just seems because the emotion in that moment is you can't delay that emotion. You can't save it. It was weird. But big win for Ole Miss and Chris Beard down there in Oxford.
You know what I think is super ironic and hilarious about the way that went down is Tennessee's down 2, and they've got the exact same situation they did against Alabama over the weekend. Same setup, same guy has the ball across half court. And, last time Rick Barnes is screaming for a timeout and the dude cans the buzzer beater 3. And in this situation, he does his little jump stop, calls the timeout like Rick Barnes wants, and then they don't make the freaking shot at the end. If I was Meshack, I would have cashed it, man. Yep. And if I missed, I'd look at him and be like, bro, what do you want from me? They did get a good look. I'm just saying,
stick to what works,
Sometimes lightning does strike twice. You just you let the hot hand roll with it. How cool of a story would that have been if the same dude in the same situation from the same spot on the floor hit buzzer beaters in back-to-back games? It would have been insane.
It would have been awesome. I would have loved it. But another team that I won't call it a major upset, but it was definitely a big win. Florida goes on the road and beats Alabama 99-94 in a second half where Florida scored 58 and Alabama scored 54 points just in the second half alone. So offense is never a problem there, but huge win for Florida. Alabama, I'm not saying Alabama's a bad team. They have a tough stretch, but man, considering they got to go to Auburn this next week, or this Saturday, is going to be tough. But either way, 30 points for Mark Sears wasn't enough for the Crimson Tide to knock off the Florida Gators.
Yeah, Florida's a wagon, man.
They're good.
Your dudes have won at Auburn and at Alabama now.
Yeah.
That's
like
that's good work.
Yeah. I'm like, I've loved how they have defied a lot of odds. I mean, it's almost like you got to respect it in a lot of ways. I wasn't sure about Todd Golden. I wasn't sure about this Florida team. I wasn't sure about all the drama that was surrounding them and what they were going to do. But man, they have just persevered and win after win after win. They're getting it done.
They're going to get a 1 seed.
Yeah, and you know what, Curtis? I kind of hate it. Because how is it that Florida has 2 coaches that are doing these things at a program that literally does not care about basketball? I know I say that all the time, but I'm like, why Florida? But I guess they hire good coaches.
He's got
what? Todd Golden's what, like 2 years older than me and you? Something like
seriously,
that?
I don't think he's 40 yet. Yeah, I mean, he's doing a heck of a job there. They have just it's almost a perfectly built roster. Yeah. And they've got big man after big man after big man. There's no way that all 6 of those really good big guys come back next year. So I'm telling you right now, and we're doing transfer portal talk, any Florida post player that hits the portal, sign me up, man. All those dudes are animals.
I would love it. And finally, the other game that we already kind of mentioned, but Oklahoma gets the win over Missouri 96-84 and in front of dozens of fans. And now Missouri sitting at 10-7. Again, I'm not saying that, they're a bad team. They're cooked, but lost 2 in a row.
I mean, Arkansas beat them, right? And then they choked that game away at Vanderbilt that they should have won. And Oklahoma dominated them. Yeah. I mean, it was from start to finish for 40 minutes, complete and utter domination. They were just flat out, no question, the better team.
Yep.
And I don't think there's any denying that. I don't know what Dennis Gates was doing. He was playing freshmen who haven't played in like 6 weeks for long stretches in that game. So I don't know if he's resting guys or if he was ticked because they weren't playing hard or what was going on. But these guys we haven't even seen were out there.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was watching. I wasn't like watching intently, but I had it on one of my TVs, and it was just like, who is that? Like I was like a player. I was like, I don't remember that guy.
Oh yeah,
and it just didn't really understand it. I mean, even the Arkansan Boateng got in for 7 minutes. Got in that game, so I got to see what he's capable of. He had a free throw, so he got on the board there. But big, for him. Yeah. So I guess Porter Mode. It's just still so funny to me. They're going to be in the tournament, and no one cared enough to go to the game last night. Like, I mean, you could have. It looked. I'm not trying to be insulting. It looked like a women's basketball game. Is all I'm saying. Like, it just didn't seem like anyone cared. But
it was empty. Yeah, I mean, there's no denying it. Like the eyes see what they see. There was nobody there. It was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. And also, this is an SEC, but I just found it strange, and maybe it's just because I haven't paid that much attention to all of it. But there is a game tonight in the Big Ten on a Thursday night, and I think that was just kind of strange and random. Michigan State plays Iowa. So, anyways, I just thought that was odd. 7 o'clock on Fox Sports 1. Yeah, and it's in Iowa. And just something that has nothing to do with the SEC. Just wanted to throw it out there that I thought it was pretty strange, pretty random, and that's all it was. So
fair enough.
Anyways. But yeah, this weekend though, I know we'll talk more about it on our show at Alumni Hall tomorrow, folks. So be sure to come hang out with us from noon to 2-ish tomorrow at Alumni Hall with our equipment and everything. It's gonna be great. But there will be some other great games in the SEC going on this weekend. I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say I don't like it. I like the fact that a lot of these games, at least in the SEC, almost fits into the like the Iron Bowl, of basketball. They made it to the last week, and I like that. The Oklahoma-Texas game, which I guess means a little bit of something now. I would have said that 2 weeks ago. I was like, who cares about the Red River shootout of basketball? But now it seems like it has some consequences that's going to happen this weekend. So, but yeah, there's that. And also, we'll trivia question for you, Curtis. Can you name the top 3 games in the SEC this weekend? Ticket price and what you get the highest ticket price for, or the highest ticket price? Does that make sense?
The most expensive games to get into? Is that
there we go? That's a better way to put it. Yeah,
okay.
Top 3.
I'll say Arkansas is on that list.
You are not correct, actually, on that.
Really?
I was surprised. Yeah.
Well, that game's at Auburn, so that's going to be a hot ticket.
Yeah, that one's number 1.
Game. That's on there for sure. I'm trying to think of what's playing.
Well, I'll give you. You got the Red River Shootout.
I know Oklahoma and Texas are playing. Does anybody care? There's no way.
Nope.
Missouri and Kentucky.
Yeah, that is number 2.
Maybe that's on there. Okay, yeah. Is that in Missouri or at Rub?
It's Missouri.
Okay, and then who else is playing?
I'll give you the list of games. You got
Vanderbilt is not on there.
You got South Carolina, Tennessee. You got A&M and LSU, and you got Ole Miss and Florida.
Is the Tennessee game at Tennessee?
Yes.
I'll go with that.
Close. The Florida Ole Miss game is actually at a little bit higher. Yeah. And again, that's why I asked you, because I was surprised to see how that was. But that game's going for $73. The cheapest ticket, though, of the weekend is Texas A&M and LSU. You can get in for $2.
Yeah, man.
So, and Vanderbilt Georgia's next at $14.
Texas A&M and LSU. That's one really bad basketball team and one team that's just really bad to watch. So you'd have to pay me to go to that game.
Yeah, just a worst combo there. All right, let's get to some of your chats, folks. We'll see if Ellis will join us. We'll give him a few minutes, but if it ends up being a long press conference, then we may just have to pick up and talk more about it tomorrow if anything came from it. But
sure.
Lance just was talking about our what's more likely savings. What's more likely, Curtis drinking a beer today or John doing the gritty? We already know, like, that's 100% Curtis drinking a beer because I'm not doing the gritty.
I'm off the sauce, man.
Is it dry March?
Nah, just not keeping it in the house anymore. Unless if I go out to dinner or something, I'll have a brewski. When we travel for March Madness, I'll have a brew. I will not freebase cocaine, but I will have a. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't actually. What should I know? What you're talking about?
I got a video I got to send you, but yeah, no, man, I don't keep it in the house anymore. So
okay, well, good for you.
Maybe neither of these are likely.
Yeah, maybe that's why they knew that. That's why they asked that. They asked that question. They must have known. Also, Trenton yesterday with his comment about me being on TV with the tongue emoji, he sent a message. He said, John was talking about Razor's Edge. Sorry for the tongue emoji. Trenton, hopefully you don't take it personally, man. It was just, when you get something like that and you get the tongue emoji, and especially, and Curtis can attest to this, some of the weird stuff I've gotten in my DMs and tweeted at me, it just always makes me a little bit uncomfortable. So no, hopefully you don't take it personally. I was just having some fun.
Hey, play the John Cena music right now.
Okay. Right now?
Yeah. Breaking news, everybody, from Matt Norlander at CBS Sports. Arkansas and Duke will play each other in the 2025 CBS Sports Thanksgiving Classic in Chicago. Woo! Let's get weird. Come on, man.
I love that. I
love coaching this team.
And I love seeing them in Chi City for the Duke game. Man, that's good. That's good stuff. Perfect timing to bring in Andrew Ellis to talk about football right now. No, that's okay. Listen, we had heard, Cal was talking about, hey, it's going to be one of the biggest deals, biggest games ever. Like, who could it be? We kept thinking maybe UConn, maybe Gonzaga, or maybe Duke, but Duke gets the nod, the Razorbacks. And, I'm sure a question is going to be asked about the 1994 national championship game at some point between the two coaches. But either way, big time stuff there in Chi-Town.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, we like we said, we were wondering, we were like, who could it possibly be? Duke is kind of who you gravitate to. We ruled them out because Arkansas just played them. And so we were like, that wouldn't be the big announcement. But I mean, basically the most notable program in the country. I'll take it.
Dude, this fires me up, man. This absolutely fires me up. We've got quotes from both coaches.
Good. Let's hear them.
John Calipari says, in what will be one of the most watched college basketball games in the last decade, we could not be more excited to be playing Thanksgiving Day against Duke on CBS again this season. This past year, playing on Thanksgiving Day was a great experience and great exposure for our program, as well as all of college basketball. This will be an NCAA tournament caliber game that will show us exactly where our team is at that point in the season. These high-level games help prepare you for March. Duke has had an incredible season this year, and John Shire has done a great job taking the reins of that program. We're looking forward to the challenge in a highly coveted matchup. Come on, man. Shire is a little bit shorter. He's not a wordsmith like Cal, though. Just,
Then again, who is?
Yeah, we'll start taking our shots at that dude right away. He says, I'm really excited to be back in Chicago and in the United Center with our team. We're always looking for new and innovative ways to approach our schedule, and playing on Thanksgiving night on primetime TV is another great chance to showcase Duke basketball on a national stage against a great opponent. We're looking forward to the challenge.
Beautiful.
Big time.
I love it.
Let's go. That's huge, man.
Yep.
What was that little motion you just did?
I was trying to, get the crowd going, but you can't see my arms, so I just put my hand here.
All I saw was this, and I was like, "Is
You
that a
can't
John
see me.
Cena? You can't see me." I thought that's what you were going with there.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm pumped by this, and it's the Cal factor. I mean, it really is. I mean, you get this game where it was almost like when Arkansas played Duke earlier, it was by force. It was like, the ACC and the SEC has made it happen. This is something that both people are like, come together, let's agree to it, and let's make it happen. So this is a desirable game for both programs and for both coaches, and that's what makes it that much sweeter. And to be in Chicago, Thanksgiving night, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully, a lot more fun than this past Thanksgiving night. But yes,
no, seriously, man, and think about this too. So you got Duke on a neutral. You get a home game in the SEC ACC challenge. Whoever that's going to be, it won't be Duke. Like, we know that. So a cool game coming in. Bud Walton. Scott Drew and John Calipari have basically outright said that Arkansas Baylor is going to be a thing, and it might be on campus situation. So do you wind up getting Baylor and Bud? I don't know. And then we've heard a lot behind the scenes about the potential of a Gonzaga series getting set up. Like, if they wind up having all that, them young guns in the backcourt better be ready to play, man. they better come in. They better come in on firing on all cylinders for sure.
That's awesome. But it really, again, it just kind of highlights what you get when John Calipari is your head coach. You are the A-lister. You get to be in these cool tournaments, these cool events, these cool stages. And regardless, I mean, obviously we'll have plenty of time to see. There's going to be a lot that happens between now and Thanksgiving, but it's never not a good thing to see your team on this kind of stage, get this type of experience, prepares you for March. That's why this Razorback team is #built for March. They'll be built for March this time next year because of the experience of playing in this game. And like you said, Curtis, some of these big time matchups that might be on the horizon does nothing but help the program, no doubt.
I can't wait to do a pot at the Palace from the Bean. Has there been to the Bean?
You're freezing. Oh my God, it's gonna be so cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I was also laughing about too in a good way. Hopefully, considering that Arkansas's basketball schedule is a little bit better in the SEC for the home games next season than what it was this past year. And you're talking about just an absolute banger of a schedule in its entirety for not only having big non-conference games, but some of teams like Auburn, Tennessee, and such like that, to Kentucky coming to town for all of it. So, it sets up really nicely next year for what theoretically could be a better team too. For Arkansas to really have a lot of fun with it. Maybe blowing our traveling budget on the non-conference games. May not travel to any SEC games. Maybe just going to Chicago, going to Dallas, going to Kansas City, going to wherever.
It's tough though, is that Chicago, that's the United goes there, right?
Well, then I'm driving to Chicago. We ain't doing that United stuff anymore. But yeah, this is big. I'm happy. I'm excited for it. I don't know if it'll be a top 10 most watched college basketball game of the last decade. I don't know if that is actually a factual statement, but fantastic. I appreciate the hype.
Yeah, all for it. Does that mean that no one cares about Sam Pittman's press conference? Is that what I'm gathering here?
Well, apparently, give us the lip read. Give us the lip read of what you got, Andrew.
Before I do that, though, I want to address this comment here, because not that Curtis needs me to back him up, but Curtis did an entire Pot at the Palace episode about this exact thing. So, not nothing, Camo Gang, an entire video, which you can go check out literally anytime. And we've talked about Nate Ament at least 1,000 times throughout this entire process. But no, in terms of what Sam Pittman said, it wasn't anything crazy. One, his microphone was off the entire time, so they will be sending out a file for people to upload, because they literally did not have his microphone on. They were arguing with the chat on Zoom, because people on Zoom were like, "Hey, the mic's off," and the UFA responded. They're like, "No, it's on. They're like, no, it's not. We were like, no, dude, it's very much not. It's completely like you could kind of hear what he's saying because he's talking at a loud enough volume, and the mic that was asking the questions was picking up some of it. But so it's the video that I recorded. I'm not going to do anything with because he was literally muted for a good portion of it. But from what I could hear, we got a couple injury updates. A couple freshmen, Taj Overton, Keandre Johnson, will be out for the spring with a collarbone and a broken toe. But Arkansas's also got a couple projected starters. Cam Ball had elbow surgery, which apparently he had been needing towards the end of last year, but he is not going to be available for spring drills, which again, Cam Ball, we know what he's capable of. Not that we really need to see him in the spring, but for an Arkansas team that doesn't have a ton of numbers on the D-line, I think that's definitely noticeable. Jordan Young, defensive back, he's also going to be out for spring. Did not hear what that injury was, but that's another position where Arkansas is short on numbers, so that's kind of interesting there. And he later said, when it comes to the portal this spring window, defensive tackle and any secondary position are going to be their priorities, specifically corner, but really they just need as many bodies as they can back there. He thinks they're set offensively. Like, he doesn't see them making any additions in the spring portal. He even went as far as to say that the offense is unquestionably upgraded across the board. They're going to be a much better offense. He said that the most talented or the most upgraded position group in terms of just size, speed, athleticism, he thinks is the offensive line. He spoke, and obviously, they haven't seen them in practice, but he really likes that group. And we kind of knew that this Carmona moving to the inside was a thing, and it seems like that's officially the direction they're going to go. Corey Robinson, they must have made a promise to Corey Robinson that he was going to play left tackle every game. And reading between the lines, it does seem like that's kind of the move. And they think, Carmona is going to play at guard at the next level. It's unclear if Carmona is going to be at center or if Kittler, the UCF transfer, is going to end up at center. But both of those guys you would assume are semi-locks to be in the interior of the offensive line. So you've got three starters there at left tackle, left guard, center. Right tackle, the names he mentioned were Doomerville, the Maryland transfer, McCroy, the Oregon transfer, and Amarian Harris, of course, returner from Maumelle there. Right guard, very much up for question, too. I mean, Kobe Branham, they really like him, but that might be the front runner there. You've got Blackstock, who started games for you there. He also mentioned the Broussard kid from Ole Miss, who's played a little bit of guard and tackle and was on the Ole Miss scout team last year. He feels like that's a much upgraded offensive line, but there are two very clear question marks going into spring practice, and so we'll see how that plays out. Wide receiver, he said, no doubt, we're definitely much deeper. And then someone asked him who the top guys are. He's like, well, we're still trying to figure out who our number one is, who our number two is. And, of course, they haven't practiced. It's really you're just watching these guys work out. He said something about Courtney Crutchfield getting into shape. He said he's starting to work his way into shape. So I don't know if Courtney Crutchfield was not in shape coming in. I don't know. Someone who he said is in shape, Braylon Russell, best shape of his career, he said. He also listed that Mike Washington guy from, I guess it was New Mexico State, that running back. He said that was a big addition. He is certainly big in size. Based on his production, I don't know if that's a big get, but he says it's a big get. Other quick notes here. Jordan Anthony not going to be at spring practice. He's obviously been doing track, doing really well, been winning a lot of races, been running very fast. That's his thing. It looks like he's going to commit to track in the spring. Of course, he's still going to play football, but last year he kind of went back and forth a little bit and was practicing some for spring, going back and forth. He's doing all track this spring. He was asked what traits he's looking for in the GM. Would y'all like to hear about this?
I would love to hear about this. Yes.
He said someone that's done it before. And then he said maybe someone from like the NBA or NFL, like someone that's had experience managing rosters, managing budgets, all these types of things. He said he wants a recruiter, an evaluator, and a negotiator. Someone that is not just simply, he said, because we could hire anybody who would just sit down with these players and tell them, yeah, we'll pay you whatever you want. But really one thing that he let slip, he says, I don't want these players saying, I'm not getting the money I'm getting and Coach Pittman won't give it to me. Now you have a GM who could hypothetically sit down with these players and have some of these conversations, do some of that negotiating, take some of the heat off of Sam Pittman, which he thinks will help from a morale standpoint. But really, he's just looking for someone that will organize recruiting at all levels. He basically started just like reading the job description, and he was like, yeah, someone who's going to, basically manage our recruiting at high school, manage our budget and all that. And I'm like, Yeah, we know what a GM's going to do. But he really thinks that he just wants someone who can handle the agents. Basically, Sam Pittman doesn't want to have these conversations like he's had to have all offseason with these guys about how much they're getting paid, how much Arkansas can pay them. He kind of wants to have a middleman, and sounds like they could desperately use one.
Great. Sweet.
Who is the he's talking about someone who's done it before, NBA, NFL, or whatever. And then I immediately, obviously, think about Arkansas ties. Who is the former hooper that is, I just read a story about him a few months ago. It's like rising up the ranks or everything. And I don't know if he's assistant GM, but he's like high up there in an NBA front office now, like maybe the Hornets or something.
Former Arkansas player?
Yeah. Maybe somebody in the chat would know, but.
Interesting. Yeah, but I thought it was funny that he said someone that's done it before, because I'm like, this college football GM thing is kind of a new thing. There's not many people who have done that before, but yeah, it is interesting. But it does seem like their goal is at least to hire someone who's worked in an NFL or NBA or MLB front office and has some experience doing this. But it definitely did not sound like we already have a guy and we're just waiting to officially hire him. Seems like they're still looking.
By the way, Curse, that's a former Razorback great Jeff Peterson.
There we go.
Is the one. He is the director of basketball operations, according with the Charlotte Hornets. So, yeah, you got him.
Guy.
Yep, a John Pelfrey great is what he was. So, okay, well, good. Well, GM looks like they're looking for a GM to be as a GM, so that's good. And also, I just wanted to address this because I know we're about to run out of here. But Amby says, I am now unsubscribing to Inside Arkansas, just like I did to John Neighbors' other show. I will not listen to his constant bemoaning of Sam Pittman in the football program. Aunt B, here's the thing. I normally don't bring up criticism towards me because I really don't care one way or the other. But I will say, I cried out of happiness after they beat Tennessee. So it has nothing to do with me being bemoaning. It has to me doing and seeing what's going on and expecting better results. So sorry you feel that way.
We also stop ourselves after, like every 2 or 3 minutes and say, hey, listen, like we're not trying to pin everything on Sam Pittman or even the program. Like there's frustrations with the administration and everything. And it just sucks that no matter how often we do those things, that we're just wasting our breath.
I know.
Set your alarm. Chuck and Bo comes on at 6 a.m. You'll find what you're looking for.
Yeah. The propaganda network will be in full swing every morning.
We will remember you. We will greatly miss you, Aunt B. Yeah, it is just kind of crazy how we're sunshine pumpers for basketball and baseball, but we turn into mean guys when it comes to football. I wonder what the difference is.
Could not tell you, actually. But a few other chats real quick before we get out of here. John Stavely just says, these guys do a great job. Interesting show and very entertaining. Thank you, John.
We were just told otherwise. Thank you.
Yeah, we needed to end on a positive note. And also, Heartbroken Hawk says, road trip to Chicago needs to be fully documented, guys. It will be content gold. It will be. The only issue, I'm just going to bring this up, guys. The only issue is it's Thanksgiving, man. Like it's tough. It's tough. It's a big holiday for a lot of people. And not saying that like we're not going to go, because they'll definitely happen, but it's just saying, it's going to be a different approach than what it was for like a Lexington trip or the Auburn trip or something like that. So since it's on a Thanksgiving holiday, but it'll still be
cowards. Yeah. Me and Danny Shee drove to Kansas City. We had Whataburger for Thanksgiving. Grinding.
Well, Thanksgiving is like, I'll admit, Thanksgiving holiday and my family is like the number one holiday. It just is more so than Christmas. It's like, that's it. So it feels like the day after or the day before would be easy, but man, the day of, I don't know, maybe I'll do some wheeling and dealing. Say, hey, let's have Thanksgiving on Friday when I get back. Something like that. I don't know.
Can I break some news real quick, John? Can you give me the point? For the second straight year, Lawson Blake has been named to the SEC Community Service Team. Although he was sidelined for the year with an injury, Blake still took pride in serving his hometown of Fayetteville and the state of Arkansas. Participated in Samaritan's Feet events in Hot Springs and Pine Bluff. Helped raise money for cancer research as well. Few other little notable things, but Lawson Blake, back-to-back years, SEC Community Service Team.
Thank you for your service,
man,
of the community.
Lawson Blake, friend of the pot at the palace. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. He's a legend. He was the only guy that was on the team, but there was no team according to Cal. But still grinding over there. Well,
good for him, man.
He is. Yeah, good for him. You guys, any final thoughts before we roll out of here for the day?
I have a couple. One, if Lawson Blake wasn't hurt, he probably would have got a little tick by now. He might have actually played a little bit this season. I'm just saying, wouldn't that have been fun? I think it would have been a lot of fun.
Would have been awesome.
Nate Ament, yes, he's visiting Saturday. Yes, we've talked about it a lot. Yes, there's a whole episode about it on the Pod at the Palace. Big deal. It's huge. Top uncommitted guy in the 2025 class. Arkansas, I mean, we said a million times, Cal just continues to go out and see this dude. He goes out and visits him. He's at his games. But you really want to see him get on campus, and then you can take it seriously, because we always know the money's going to be there. If Arkansas wants to be the highest bidder, they will be, right? And now you got him on campus, and he's coming for a win and you're in game at Bud Walton Arena. So now you got money, check. Visit, check. Environment and atmosphere for said visit, check. It's his last visit, check. So a lot of things lining up nicely for Arkansas. The competition is stiff, but after this weekend, Arkansas is going to be right in the thick of things for him.
Hell yeah. Show up, Hog fan.
Yes. Show up, Hog fans. I think
somebody screenshot that quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do it, man. That's a hurtful look. It's a hurtful look. Okay, before we get out of here, though, Quinn says we missed his other super chat. Apologize, Quinn. But he said Arkansas has a very good chance as the 9th seed in the SEC tournament and faces South Carolina. Potentially will face Kentucky, which would be pretty awesome.
Yes, Arkansas wins and Georgia wins, and Arkansas gets the 9 seed.
Yep, that'd be great.
Both those teams win Saturday. That's what you get.
Sign me up for it.
Yep.
Well, that'll do it for us. Appreciate each and every one of you listening and watching in Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page, as well as across all of our social medias at Inside Arkansas. You can check out our website at InsideArkansas.com for all the latest and greatest up-to-date information on all things Razorbacks. And you can also follow us on all of our podcasts where podcasts are found, whether it's Inside Arkansas Live, Pod at the Palace, or the Bombastic Podcast. You can find it. So for Andrew Ellis, as well as Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon at Alumni Hall. Come see us. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you.